The imminent announcement of Pochettino is probably still the biggest announcement because now I feel like we're really close. I think we all understood that Pochettino, the reason why they couldn't come to an agreement in August is because he was waiting for this big payment from Chelsea. And so once that was clear and he moved into September, now he can move forward with signing with the U.S. and I think we're going to get it in the next 3 days. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
But also underlying is Jesse Marsch trying to take Canada to the next level as a former U.S. international and someone who wanted the job for the U.S. men's national team. I think that adds a little bit fuel to the fire for a game like this, a friendly that doesn't necessarily feel like a friendly because you have players who are looking to try and show Pochettino, like, I want this job, I want to be a part of this process into the World Cup on home soil versus Jesse Marsch kind of reinvigorated side.
It feels like this game, a win would mean more for Canada than it would for the U.S.
At this stage, yes.
I agree with that.
Let's not forget, though, was that call what you want? That Jesse was pretty bold. You don't usually see a Canadian manager do this. Now, even John Herdman did this. He predicted the Canada win.
2-1, yeah.
So this is personal. It has that personal feel for Jesse.
Well, this is also, when Jesse Marsch took this job, he had this friendly circled on his calendar about 1 million times because this is obvious. This was the job I think he wanted.
He did want it.
Yeah.
He wanted this job. And he didn't get it.
The U.S. job, yeah.
And they didn't give it to him. So I think that there is certainly a chip that he is wearing on his shoulder as he faces the United States tomorrow. And I do think this matters to him for many, many reasons. And the U.S. are kind of right now, Michael, in this. We keep calling it this like limbo phase because we're waiting for this announcement of Pochettino to become official. We're not quite sure what we're looking for in these two upcoming friendlies. So what are you hoping to see from the U.S.? Like, what's the most that they can get out of these two matches coming up?
Well, for sure, 2 wins. You expect to win, and you expect to kind of give more of a statement win, especially against Canada, because I said this on Scoreline after Copa América, that the gap is closed now with what Jesse has done with Canada at Copa América. So you want to push the distance. The gap is closed, Chuck.
The gap was already closed with John Herdman. John Herdman got the best of the U.S. in World Cup
But the gap opened up with Nations League. The gap opened up with Nations League. The performance they put in at Nations League in that match, it opened up a bit of a gap. It opened up a gap.
Same squad. And now you're having a U.S. team with no direction at the moment.
So going into Copa América, of the two sides, right, who here on planet Earth was saying, you know what, Canada is within touching distance of the U.S. men's national team? I didn't hear anyone say that.
They had a favorable group setting to get to a semifinals where the U.S., we all knew they were going to lose. If they did get out of the group, they had to play Colombia or Brazil. And we all thought the scenario was going to be they qualify second in the group behind Uruguay, and then they lose to Brazil or Colombia. That was kind of what we all thought was going to happen, and it didn't even get to that stage. Canada, they had a easier way to get to a semifinal. And for Jesse Marsch, it's exactly what he needed to kind of get everyone believing it.
Galvanize the group and get the spirit of this team towards where they want to go. But I kind of sit in between you guys. The work that Canada and Jesse Marsch needs to do to fry the fish that the U.S. also wants to fry is much greater. I think the talent discrepancy, that gap isn't bridged yet. Does Canada have the best team they've had in their history? Yeah, absolutely. Did they beat the U.S.? Of course they beat the U.S. But there's infrastructure in place, and we have had a history of being able to compete with the biggest of nations. And now with Pochettino, reportedly, the U.S. is heading in a strong direction. Not that Canada isn't, but the U.S. on home soil should beat Canada, even if they don't have a manager, if they have an interim manager. right?
Hey,
And that's
we saw what an interim manager did in Nations League.
in Nations League.
Yeah.
The U.S. should win this game.
Should win this game. Okay, well, they're going to have to do it, though, without one of their strongest players in Gio Reyna, who, it was announced yesterday, left camp with a groin injury. This was we talked about it this week, about this being an opportunity for certain players to kind of showcase themselves, especially for a Mauricio Pochettino, who is very likely watching these friendlies. But for the U.S. and for Gio, this just feels like really unfortunate timing, Charlie.
Yeah, I'd say it's more unfortunate for Gio than it is the U.S. men's national team. Gio needed this, whereas the U.S. U.S. men's national team is going to go on and on with or without you. That's just how it works. So for Gio Reyna, who's not playing, who has kind of had to overcome a lot of these bouts of long spells out with injuries, now here he is again, injured in a time where you can't be injured. This is your moment to try and still show that you're in, you want to build a rhythm. Now that you're injured, it sets you back with Dortmund even further.
Yeah.
So it's really disappointing to see that he is not even involved in this, and I didn't even think he was going to start in this because he's not playing.
How disappointing is it that it's not just this? Let's see the bird's eye view from his entire career. The constant injuries and the constant setbacks.
Yeah. Well, I liken this to moving players from different categories. So we've always highlighted Gio Reyna's potential and how we see glimpses of it. We saw it in the Nations League final against this very Canadian national team. We see it in little spurts here. But at what point, I know he's still young, but at what point do we start putting him in the category of a player that we can't depend on? Because if you're a player that's on the fringe right now and you're getting an opportunity to start, this is your chance to get locked into this national team and put a player like Gio on the fringe. Mauricio Pochettino, he's looking. It's a clean slate right now, but this is a big opportunity missed for Gio.
I think we've been at this point for the last couple of years. I don't think we've ever said we depend on Gio. Maybe for that one Nations League game,
the semifinal and final.
The semifinal and final where he played his best. And other than that, it's not been ultimately, oh wow, Gio can really put this team on his back.
But I think going into this Copa América was the first time that I truly felt that the conversation was starting to happen, that this U.S. team, in order for them to move forward, needs a Gio Reyna. I heard it here on Morning Footy itself of what does life with Gio Reyna look like?
Well, the only reason that conversation came up is because the midfield of Yunus Musah, Tyler Adams, and Weston McKennie, no one was necessarily supporting underneath the striker, and there was loads of space in between the attacking three and the midfield. And so how do you fix that with the style that Greg Berhalter was playing? Well, you need somebody higher up, someone who's a 10, because early on Greg Berhalter talked about playing with 2 10s, and Weston McKennie is not a 10. So or Yunus Musah. But when Gio Reyna was there, you could start to see him connecting passes and opening space for people. And we saw that glimpse in the Nations League in Las Vegas, and he looked incredible. But then you don't play, you get injured. He gets injured against Canada, goes into his club form, and then we saw last season was a wash for him. Now you want to start this next year, this next semester, as Nico would say, on a better path. And there is no path now. What path does he have at Dortmund? You got to wait for a couple of injuries and bad form for you to get your opportunity
and recover from your own injury.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
Oh,
Yep.
I know Ivis, producer Ivis, doesn't like us using the word sucks, but this is one of these situations that for a career that's so young and he just keeps on getting injured.
Yeah.
It's not a pity, it's not a shame. This just blatantly sucks for a guy that has so much potential, and we see it on the U.S. and how much that can be fulfilled, and we understand his ceiling. For him to not be playing at his club, to be injured again, to have another setback, it's just not great.
Yep. It does suck. I concur.